home prices going up, rent rates going up, people coming out of forbearance. Maybe what we should all do is wait for this wave of foreclosures so we can all buy up houses cheap like we did in 2010. I'm Sandi Warner with Warner Realty Group. Let's talk about foreclosure, shall we? This is the headline that was posted on February 14th by RIS Media. And as you know, if you've been watching any of the videos we've been putting out, the word of the day is headlines do more to terrify than to clarify. And the reason for that is the way that we consume our news. Most of us, we're consuming it on our phone, or we're consuming it on our computer, or we're watching it on the news. There are so many sources of information competing for our attention that people who are trying to get information to us have to try to interrupt our train of thought. They have to capture our attention in this wave of information. So what they do is they put out these headlines, and I get it. I do marketing. I'm not criticizing anyone. We just have to, when we're looking at these headlines, we just have to take it with a grain of salt, and you have to read the article. So let's talk about foreclosures. Let's look at the data. So the reality is there is no surge in foreclosures. This is some data. Adam Data tracks this, and these are foreclosure completion numbers. The number on the left is January 2019. The number in the middle is January 2020, and the number on the end is January 2022. Well, why don't we have a January 2021? Moratorium, no foreclosures. So in January 19th, January 2019, now January 2019 was before COVID. Remember, that hit in March of 2019. So that year there was that month, there was 11,960 foreclosures in the United States. In January of 2020, there were 9,600, and the pandemic started in 2020. And this year, where we just saw that headline that says we're U.S. foreclosure activity highest since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, yeah, we're at 5 foreclosures. That's still way higher than 0, right? So nothing wrong with advertising like this. We have to be smart consumers. It's up to us to read the information in front of us and understand what we're seeing. This is a quote from Rick Sherga, who is the executive VP at Realty Track. And he said it's very important to keep these numbers in context. So even though we're up 4,500 something in January of 2020 over January the year before, what does that mean in the bigger picture? We're likely to continue seeing large year-over-year percentage increases for the rest of 2022 because the moratorium's been lifted, right? But it's also likely that foreclosure activity will remain below historically normal levels until the end of 2022. So let's look at the forbearance program. Now, when we talk about the forbearance, and we've been tracking this for the last year or 2 years, really, if you've been following our videos. And the forbearance program, fact number one, when the market crashed, or when housing crashed in 2007 and 2008, there was no forbearance, there were no modifications, there were no workarounds. You either paid your mortgage or you were in foreclosure, which banks don't want to do that again. They ended up with so many houses on their inventory, and the bottom fell out of the market. So this time, everybody learned from the last time, and we had a moratorium on evictions because they didn't want people to be homeless. And number two, banks were like, whoa, we don't want all these properties back. Hey, most of them, the big banks, Citibank, JP Morgan, all of them, you could go, as soon as you logged into the site, there was a little button, you said, click, put me in forbearance, and voila, you were in forbearance. So now we have the data out for January of 2021, and 38.1%. Now this is loans upon exiting forbearance, because forbearance is for a period of time. These are the cumulative forbearance exits from the period of June 1, 2020, which is when the moratorium started, through December 31st, 2021, which is a little bit after it ended. But this is a 18-month picture. So of all the millions that went into the forbearance program, 38.1% paid their loans in full. They're fine. 19.5% of those that took forbearance, they 19.5% of those who took forbearance continued to make their payments regularly. They did not, they clicked on the forbearance button because, like most of us, they were like, oh my God, I have no idea what's happening. Am I going to lose my job? Is my wife going to lose her job? Are we all going to get sick? What is happening? We were all scared back then, remember? So these were cautious people, took forbearance, made their payments. 6.9% of those actually paid their loan off during that period. So there's no risk of them going into forbearance now. And 11.7 had some past due payments, which are now completely caught up. So all those greens are no longer a problem. And those are not going to be foreclosures. The blue section, which is a little bit bigger, this is a group of people who did loan modifications or workarounds or payoffs. 29.1% did a deferral, meaning probably what they did is they took the payment that's due, say February, and they wrapped it on to the end of their loan. 14.6 did a modification, so there was a change in the structure somewhere. But those mean that they're now back on track. For whatever's going on, they're not behind. And remember, it takes a long time to foreclose on a property. So these guys are out of the danger zone. We do still have 18.2% of those people who are in trouble, and we do worry about them. 16.9% have no loss or mitigation plan. Listen, if you know somebody who's in trouble, there's no excuse for this. Not that there's no excuse, but there's help. There's so much help for this. Tell them to call me. I will help them. They're most likely to have equity in their home, and they probably can take advantage of a whole lot of federal money out there to get caught up, or maybe they don't know that their bank is willing to work with them. So don't let anybody go under. It is so unlikely that that's necessary at this point. 1.3% of those, they have short sales, which means they sold the house for less money than it was worth. They didn't have any equity in the house. They did a deed in lieu. So basically what they did is they gave the deed back to the bank, or they did a repayment plan of some kind. So that being said, only 18% of everybody who went into forbearance is still in some kind of trouble. So that's not a wave of foreclosures, guys. Foreclosure activity is at an all-time low. Now you can see this red stuff here, and that is 2007 to 2015, and that's when the bottom fell out of that market. That's, remember, coming up through 2000 through 2006, where we had so much construction going on, and we had no-doc loans, and we had all this like shady lending practices. So when all of that fell apart, the banks got back all of their properties. They were saying, oh my God. I mean, I remember I was living in Florida at the time, and tons of us, like, you would send your check to whatever bank you thought owned the house right now, and they would never cash it. I mean, it was weird times. Anyway, so that was, hopefully you were alive and investing somewhere in that period, especially look at that between 2009 and 2010, 2.9 million foreclosures. I mean, that is wild, right? Well, now here we are. If you look at 2021, what was the number? 151,000 foreclosures, right? 2005, in a more normal year, we did 533,000. 2006, we did 718,000. 2016, 933,000. So 2021, we have an abnormally low rate of foreclosures. Bear in mind that foreclosures are a very standard part of any fiscal year for a bank. There's always somebody who gets in trouble. That's just like people don't pay their credit card. Some people not saying they're willing to, but that they can't. Something happens, medical disasters, death in the family, losing jobs, all kinds of things can go wrong. That's a normal part of life. We are not in a period of time where we're going to see an abnormally large number of foreclosures. So just a reminder, we're just going to finish out on this quote again. Just please remember, we may see a little bit of an uptick in foreclosure rates in 2022, but just an uptick. This is not a buyer strategy at this point. Now, if you find a foreclosure and it's a good deal, go for it. I am happy to help you do that. We watch it. Our numbers are, we might get one distressed property in Newport County, and probably 10 throughout the entire state of Rhode Island in any given month. So if you do want a foreclosed property, it's probably an unholy mess. You got to do a bunch of work. Love doing that kind of transaction with people. I will help you with that. And again, if you know somebody, if your neighbor, your parents, your family, if somebody's in trouble with the bank, let them know there's help. I am happy to consult with anybody in Rhode Island and try to point them to the right direction in the bank and all the state aid that's available. It is so unlikely that they need to foreclose. So give them a hand. I'm Sandi Warner with Warner Realty Group, making the complex simple.